This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by AuthorU and the Book Shepherd. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to another fabulous episode of AuthorU, your guide to book publishing. And as you know, I always love to share insights, ahas, and tips to enhance and support you and your book along its journey. So my goal is always to support you and your success. So let's get started. Today, I have someone that I haven't had the pleasure of featuring on the AuthorU Guide to Book Publishing podcast before. So joining us is Peggy Sands. And Peggy actually has a couple of very cool hats that she wears. One is that she is a beautiful professional artist, and she has been designing for over 25 years. She brings that artistic side into the designs that she works with clients. To take advantage of their creativity, but also incorporate her creativity in the tools that brings it into the branding world. She's known for her arty logos, which she creates by hand. And although Peggy does all forms of design, from branding to billboards, websites to white papers, her first love is book design. Her clients range from recording artists to small companies to individuals like you as an author and occasional major corporation. Peggy hangs her hat most of the time in Boulder, Colorado. And we are going to jump into a variety of things. So Peggy, welcome aboard.
Thank you, Judith. Hi, everyone.
All right. So I guess branding is really important. One of the things I tell all the authors that I have the pleasure to work with is that branding, it starts with you, the author, with your name, with your imaging, your persona, with so many things on that. But in effect, when they're out there in the public, their brand starts with them. Do you disagree, agree? Where do we go?
No, I agree. In terms with authors, yes, they are essentially their brand.
And why do so many, I mean, literally, I have had to feel like I'm pulling teeth sometimes, Peggy, to get them to acknowledge that. What do you think? What's the fear factor here?
Well, it's a whole, okay, so to me, it looks like an author writes a book, and that's that. And then the marketing, as my girlfriend put it, I climbed a mountain range to get this book done. It took me 3 years. It took everything. It's done. It's finished. I got it designed. It's published. She said, now I've finished all that, and I'm looking at another mountain range of Himalayas in front of me of marketing my book. That's what I think it's about. It's like, just, oh my God, please, I just want to write a book. Marketing is a different kettle of fish. And if you're going to write a book, you need to know about marketing if you want it to go anywhere. Yeah, so I think it's that whole package.
I always, to the dour face, tell them their writing was the easy part. The marketing is where the work is.
Right, exactly.
So here it is. So exactly what is branding? When you tell someone, when you're talking about branding, what do you tell them?
All right, so I would take this back to, I have to go all the way back to the beginning. You brand because this is how you build market, how you build your customer base, how you build, I'm forgetting the word, excuse me.
Influence?
No, what you want is a loyal customer base. And branding is how you do it, because your customers are going to, or people identify with brands.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at Apple, people do not have to buy Apple products to get what they need, an iPhone or whatever, and they are diehard Apple customers because they have identified with the brand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this is, this is what it's all about. And I'm going to give you an example in your neighborhood. If you see some stranger walking through your neighborhood, you're like, oh, some stranger. What are they doing here? You see that person 7 times, and this is the whole marketing thing. You need to see a logo 7 times. You see that person 7 times walking through your neighborhood. You go, wow, I bet they live here. You open to them. You let them in to your psychological world. And branding is just that. You are creating an image, a look, a statement about who you are that people then welcome into their world. And once they've welcomed you into their world, you're home free, be it whatever it is. They need a plumber, and they'll remember, oh yeah, that plumber is always driving through. I'm going to call them. It's that's market loyalty, brand loyalty, and why you brand yourself to begin with. So with an author,
I was going to say, so with your example of the stranger in the hood who you didn't recognize, but then you keep seeing this person, they evolve from being a stranger to maybe a friend or someone that you don't fear. A neighbor. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So, okay, I'm there.
And that's the whole, I don't know if you've heard this before, but somebody needs to see your logo 7 times before it sticks. And it's that psychology. It's how the brain functions. It's the scientific. I like science. I like how the mind works. That's how the mind works. And you can probably trace this all the way back to when we were cavemen.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, because what's so interesting to me is this stuff works on a very, very, very deep level. It's not. It's kind of hardwired into us, and that's what marketing principles work on. Stuff that's hardwired into us. That's old. That's the reptile brain, we're talking about. It's old. I don't know if it's the reptile brain, but it's old stuff. We're hardwired.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you think about the commercial market, that is, whether it's the holidays coming on or whatever, that especially during the holiday, I remember saying to John last Christmas, I said, I bet you this is the Target ad. And yes, it was. Pretty soon, it came on, but it had all the elements of what that company had been building up. So it was recognition. The recognition was there. And then it pulls into your memory bank. So I don't know if I recognized them after I saw it 7 times. Their formula for how they did their commercials, or it's maybe I just saw it 2 times and it hit because I instantly pulled it in. But I love that idea. 7 times. You have to use your logo 7 times before it sticks. That's huge.
Yeah, and I want to say one thing about branding. Branding, yes, the logo is the heart of the brand. But, for example, I have a client, the Family Learning Center, and I rebranded them, and we worked with colors. And they have, I'll say something about changing your logo in a second. Like, don't do it. Mm-hmm. But they wanted it to feel, Family Learning Center is for not necessarily minority, but lower income. For lower income kids, it's basically started as daycare and evolved into this beautiful after-school, more than just a program, a place, a community, the whole thing where it's an amazing little thing where it takes minority kids, but mostly gets them through high school, lets them know they can go to college, helps them get their whatever they need to do to go to college or do whatever they need to do to get ahead in the world. And what those kids say, sorry, I'm digressing here, but what those kids say is, Family Learning Center gave me hope that I too could be successful in America. So that's their thing. It's a beautiful, beautiful program, a beautiful facility, and but they wanted. When I was working with Brenda, the director, she wanted something that kind of felt not ethnic, but had Latino and ethnic edge. So we did it with color. It's got bright colors, and there's these 4 bright colors that now represent the Family Learning Center. So you see those colors, and Family Learning Center. Mm-hmm. So that's another way, and I'm using those colors, and mostly I use it in the same pattern that I once did, which is just 4 squares of color with 5 colors with a 5th color on top. But I use that. Though I use those colors in every way, shape, and form. If we're doing something elegant, I'll just have 4 little lines of color. I don't have the big blam, 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 blam background colors, and it works. Mm-hmm. Why I did that? Their logo is cute. You never, as much as possible, you don't change your logo because you've got brand loyalty with your logo. People recognize the logo, and they are identified with it. They get upset if you change it. The Gap changed their logo, and they had this huge backlash, so they went back to the old one. This is known. If you change your logo, your client base gets really upset, and you've lost your brand loyalty. They don't. It has a visceral connection with the unconscious. People identify with the brand, with it.
So let's hold that.
Change it. You've lost it.
All right, Peggy, hold that thought. We're going to come back, take a quick break. And I want to actually ask you about also, what about changing a name when we come back?
Okay.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Is there a book in you? Or another? AuthorU shows you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you will find a supportive and brainstorming community that is connected and creative, no matter where you live. AuthorU brings in national experts for its book camps and annual AuthorU extravaganza. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through AuthorU's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. AuthorU is the premier authoring resource in the country, creating community, education, guidance, vision, and success for the serious author. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, AuthorU is for you. Timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted on its social media platforms, and it is free. Discover AuthorU, where authors go to become seriously successful. Join AuthorU today at AuthorU.org.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, we're back on AuthorU, your guide to book publishing, and with me is Peggy Sands, and she is not only an artist, like painting beautiful things, but she is a graphic designer working with websites and as well as logos and overall branding. Her website is Indigo Design, And it Indio Disegno. So I'm going to spell it, everybody. INDIGO DISEGNO.com. It's doing a redesign right now if you try to go to it. I'll mention it again before the show ends, but you do want to check out what she is about. All right, we're talking about branding in the very beginning here, about what it is, why should you, and then logos, and your name as a part also of the brand. And Peggy was mentioning a few things with color, and when you should change and when you should not change. Obviously, I think I have to have both ends in here. But what else goes on here, Peggy?
All right, what I want to say about branding is you are rolling up everything you do into an easily identifiable, visually identifiable presentation. So you see it, bam, you know everything about. It's kind of like packaging the whole thing up in a visual. So when people see whatever your branding is, your logo, your colors, your font, they're connecting with you. And it just is a very sort of streamlined way of presenting yourself, your company, what you're presenting. And it's easier for the mind to grasp.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
And it sticks. And it sticks because you just said in the last segment,
simple.
You got to see it 7 times before the sticking really happens.
Yeah, but the thing is, when people can look at see one object or one image, and it clicks into everything that you're saying about yourself. You see the apple, you know it means, for example, for Apple products, you see the apple with a bite out of it, you go, apple, clean, quality, cool, it works, cutting edge, user-friendly. It's like got all this stuff rolled up into that apple. That's, and taking all these little pieces it's a bit overwhelming for the mind. Looking at the apple, it's all stated within that image. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, I do.
That's
exactly.
kind of what branding is. It makes it very easy for the mind to grasp, for people to make a set of correlating connotations and with that one image.
Mm-hmm. So I guess what we're saying, everyone, is branding is really essential as you start down this authoring and publishing path. So who are you? So are there, when you're working with a client, Peggy, are there certain questions you ask them as you start to work with them to develop? What would some of those kind of questions be?
Okay. What are you saying about yourself?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to tell your audience? Who is your audience? First thing is, who's your audience? Because if people say, "Oh, everyone," it's like, no, that doesn't work. You need to target. Sorry, you're not going for toddlers here. So, who's your audience? Realize who your audience is. What do you want to tell them about what you're selling? What do you want to tell them about yourself? And then I go more into specifics. What colors? Blah blah blah. What do you like? What you do not like? The more you can be specific about your targeting and what you're saying about yourself, the more you're going to reach people. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm. So
these are,
when I get that. And so it starts with the who. It always starts with the who. You got to know who you're serving, who you're writing for, who you're publishing for. And unfortunately, a lot of authors are still unclear because they have this illusion that, well, everyone wants to read them. No, they don't. No, they don't.
It's so
I'm
funny.
I'm sorry to say. Yeah, it's a no, you don't.
It's so funny. With book design, it's exactly the same. Like people want a certain, this font, and I'm like, I'm sorry, you can't use that typeface because that's the typeface that goes with true romance fiction. You don't want to use that typeface, even though you love it, because the immediate correlation is going to go on in people's minds. And you think you want to talk to everybody. You don't. You don't want the true romance people. You don't want the toddlers. You don't want the nursery school kids. There's very specific looks that we as designers use. This is the visual language. There's very specific looks, colors, everything, fonts, everything that connote a certain feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so for every genre of book, there's a different typeface, basically. Or you don't have, like, I don't know, Edwardian script, one of these fancy scripts on a thriller.
Oh, exactly. That the romance people would just love, love, love. And which, by the way, is often when you get to that thumbnail size of 25% is unreadable, but that's another deal. But it's it's another problem. But it's got to be, for a business book, it's got to be crisp, it's got to be sharp, it's got to be bold and jump out. And the Edwardian script would be a kiss off. So,
well, it's just that people would never buy a thriller with the title written in Edwardian script. Does everybody know what Edwardian script is? That's like Tiffany kind of stuff.
Yes.
Fancy curls, Park Avenue invitations.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's calligraphy to the oomph degree. How's that?
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. That does not mean thriller in people's brains. It's so interesting because the visual language is also hardwired into us. I have not actually verified this, but I read this somewhere that every culture in the world has an expression, he's feeling blue. I mean, like the pygmies have the expression, he was feeling blue. So there is the visual language is accessing subconscious and unconscious imagery that we all carry as human beings.
I know every culture had that.
Yeah, feeling blue is across the board. Now, my woo-woo take is that people have this slate blue in their aura, and on some level we're seeing that, but that's the woo-woo take. But, look at a battleship and look at a black widow spider. Look at an aircraft carrier. They've got all this nasty, pointy stuff, and every nasty spider that really hurts you. I've been interested in this because I'm in Arizona. We have brown recluses here. They all have these nasty, pointy legs. They, regular spiders, wolf spiders, they have little feet. The poisonous ones have nasty points. And it's the same thing in all our warfare, in the stuff that we create for warfare. It looks like that. It's
danger.
Hardwired into us.
Yeah, danger. Hey, by the way, I was bitten by one of those nasty, pointy spiders. It was horrible. Horrible.
Which one?
The brown
Black
recluse.
Widow? You got a recluse bite? Oh, my God.
I got a recluse bite, yeah,
Oof.
in one of my travels. Anyway, so back to the branding factor as we go on. So if you, going back to the essential questions you asked, so it sounds to me that where you start is knowing who you're trying to reach. Would that be correct?
Who you're trying to reach, who your audience is, and what you want to tell them. They're both very, very important.
Okay, so I guess I would say for all of you, have you done that little exercise yourself? Not who your audience, who you're trying to reach, and what were the other ones that you just said?
It's who your audience is. What is your audience, and what do you want to tell them? And let me give you an example of this.
Love that.
Tazo tea and Celestial Seasonings tea. They're the same thing. They're organic tea. Celestial Seasonings came out, in the 80s or 70s? I don't know, wherever they came out. And their whole thing was back to nature. That was when everybody was going back to communes and back to the farm and grandmother's kitchen, and it's all folksy, and it's, before nasty stuff. Tazo tea comes out. They're like, and I'm assuming both packaging. Tazo tea is like, we are elegant, we are refined, we are more expensive because obviously we're better, we're zen. Same product. Tazo is twice the cost of Celestial Seasonings. And they're if you go into any store and look at those two tea brands, they appeal to very, very different people. Taza went for the high end. Celestial Seasoning is going for the down-home folksy. Same product.
When you say the same product, they're not. Are they made by the same people?
No, but they're both
They're totally
organic
different.
Herbal tea.
Organic herbal tea. Wow. Well,
yeah.
In fact, when I go in the store, I think that one of the things that all of us should be doing is really next time you shop or you just go into a store and go in with a branding eye. Put your branding eye hat on and start looking at competitive companies and what they do. And ask yourself, what are they trying to tell me? I mean, I think that would be a great exercise.
Yes, because then you start to realize the visual language. You also start to realize how much you're being manipulated by marketers.
Yes.
If you care, because it's a multi-gazillion-dollar business. People who know how to manipulate in that way. Amy's organic food versus, I don't know, General Mills has an organic line. Nobody will touch it.
And why is that?
Because it looks too commercial.
It looks like GM. Okay.
Yeah, it's too slick. It's too commercial. It's it doesn't look like nature.
So by definition, because we have the word organic in it, then you've got to have your adjectives, your visual adjectives have got to match that. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
I like that a lot. All right. So you also talk about, I know we're 1 minute to our next break, but about the memorable part. So that's that you're bringing in the visual again.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, maybe we should hold that for when we come back, Peggy, because I'd love you to kiss on simplicity versus maybe complex. How complicated should you get things versus, you talked about you like to start with, a 4 lines or you're using your color and things. That when do you start expanding and getting, I don't want to say frou-frou, but I've seen some things look frou-frou. We'll be right back. This is Judith Briles.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Discover the power of you and your book at the Judith Briles Unplugged events. Each summer, Judith Briles Book Marketing Unplugged unfolds over 3 intensive days working with just Judith. You get publishing strategies, author and book platforms, book marketing panache and pizzazz, and authoring tools to take you and your book to rock star success. In the fall and winter, Judith Briles Speaking Unplugged includes Judith as your coach and mentor during 2 powerful days. You will learn how to structure a speech, how to create openings and closings, how to find gigs that pay you and sell your books, and you will get one-on-one coaching. Go to thebookshepherd.com and click on the Events tab to learn how to participate at the next Unplugged Workshop event.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, so with us is Peggy Sands, and we're talking about branding, and she is coming from her perspective totally as a designer and an artist who works and builds brands and their logos and the imagery for many, many clients. So, Peggy, when we went to break, I was just starting to talk about brands being memorable, and how complicated should they be, or how simple should they be. And I'm firstly talking about the logo itself, and also, what do you think? Should authors have a logo?
I think it depends on how big you're going. If you've written one book, no.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think that's an unnecessary expense. If you are building a whole series of things, one of my clients is a Qigong guy, and he's got books, he's got CDs, he's got videos, then yes, I think a logo is an important thing, and he has a logo. About logos. Shall I jump in here on the logos?
Yes, please.
Okay, a logo is not an illustration. A logo should, and that's, I have seen some logos in the organic food packaging stuff that really are illustrations, a little farm with the fields at the sunset, but inside a little oval. But in general, they are symbolic. They do not, it does not have to be what you're about. Look at penguin books. Penguins don't have anything to do with books, but they have a picture of a penguin. I don't know why. They will not change it, because you never change your logo, because you lose all your brand following at that moment and brand recognition. But in order to make logos memorable, what I do and what many people do is, well, what you want to do is get a person's brain involved with your logo. So, for example, I was just telling Judith this, the FedEx logo. I don't know how many of you have seen this, but between the E and the X, there is an arrow in the FedEx logo. It's in the negative space. That means the space around the letters, where the letters create an arrow. That, when people see that, they've just gotten involved with it. They didn't just read FedEx. They went, oh, there's an arrow in there. Bam, that's it. People will not forget that logo. The Toblerone logo, it's the mountains of Switzerland. There's actually a bear in that logo. When you see that, you never forget the logo. So it's this kind of play, a visual play, that when the brain can get involved with it, you've like set a little hook into the mind. Somebody's learned something. That's how you make, for me, that's how I do memorable logos. Well, I do three things. I do that. I use beautiful colors. Being a painter, I really know color, and people always respond to color. And sometimes I just try and make it so compelling that people remember it. I'm just thinking of a recent logo I did that I thought was the best logo I've ever done in my life. But it was just 4 stripes. It was for a company called Tribal. And it was 4 sort of brush strokey stripes that represented the tribal markings on people's faces. And it was done in the colors of a fire, because it was sitting around a campfire was very important. It's a very simple logo, but there was no brain twister in there, or visual brain twister, but it's a striking logo. I don't think people will forget it. So anyway, that's the way I work when I do it. But those are, I want to say one more thing. For anybody getting a logo, it's really imperative that you love your logo. I do have a woo-woo streak, I confess. And if you don't love your logo, you are energetically saying, I don't like this, every time you look at your logo. But on the other side, you've got to work with your designer, because a designer knows what's like an instant visual turnoff. Like, everybody wants papyrus script, and it's been so overused, nobody uses it anymore, because it dates you. It says, I'm old-fashioned and I'm really cliche. So even though everybody loves papyrus, we're like, no, sorry, you can't use that. So you want to work with your designer, but you also want to, and you want to trust your designer, and you want to love what they come up with. It's really got to be a back and forth. Because I've heard people, I have clients who are like, I don't like my logo. I can't, they come to me, they're like, can you do it? And I'm like, yeah, but we got to work on this. This is not you hand off and that's that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when I think of logos, there's some visual logos that stick out in my mind. Like anytime I see a bottle that has anywhere near the shape of the Coca-Cola bottle, I instantly think of Coca-Cola. It doesn't have to be red. It doesn't have to have Coke on it. I just know that's the image, and it is in my head. I mentioned Target. As we kicked off the show, and their logo with basically 3 circles, red, white, and red as the dot in the middle, I guess. That's the Red Cross is huge. You just have to see that Red Cross, and you know exactly that's okay. Health, I can get help here.
That's what I mean about packaging everything up and into one visual. Mm-hmm. You see the visual, you know everything about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Apple had their apple with their colors in it and that bite out of it. I mean, I remember I used to live in Northern California in Palo Alto when Apple started, and they were always on target for that to go in that direction, and they've stuck with it pretty much. Yeah.
Oh, they've built the best brand loyalty I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
They're like a gazillion-dollar company. It's because of brand loyalty. Because other people are making products as good as theirs or better. I remember there was an ad that came out. I'm sorry, I have to digress. Of a nerd and a super cool guy who one had the Mac, one had the PC. Do you guys remember that ad? It just summed it all up. Everybody was like, "Yeah, I got a Mac. I'm cool." I feel like that. I got a Mac. I'm cool. Done. It's like done deal. Yeah.
Well, and then I felt, growing up and being influenced by Mac, that if you're a designer, you have to have a Mac.
Of course. Well, you do anyway.
Every designer has a Mac.
Well, that
everybody
was because the software for so many years worked so much better on Macs that PCs they've caught up, but nobody cares. They lost the market
for what they were doing.
One thing I wanted to say, what did I want to say? One thing about logos, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but visually it's easier to remember a simple logo than a complex one. Just so everybody knows that. No, there's a number of logos that look like the Starbucks logo, and you can't really tell them apart because Starbucks is too complicated.
Yes,
but
it
of
is
course,
complicated.
Starbucks cornered the market, so anybody's logo that looks like a Starbucks logo, everybody thinks Starbucks. But keep it simple.
So if you come out if your name is, your coffee shop is Starbucks, you might have some problems from the Starbucks people on that. All right, so logos, literally, to reiterate it, they need to be memorable. And you're saying that, and what I'm hearing you say is simple is often best.
Simple is best, easy to remember.
Yeah, memorable, and don't get it complicated. So everyone, I would hope you look at the next FedEx truck you see, or when you go by a FedEx office, and see the arrow pointing to the right, because it's very clever, and it's almost like, if you remember those illusion images you'd see, if you look at it one way, you see an old woman, and if you look at the other way, you see this face going, you see a young woman, or if you look at this other, your eyes trick it over, you see an old face. It's the same kind of thing. You'll start seeing it, and your eyes will be going back and forth. You see it now, you see it don't. You see it now, you see it don't. So,
well, what happens is the brain has to get involved versus it's just an image that kind of goes by and on the side of a truck. That when the brain literally reaches out and gets involved. That's how you make things memorable.
So I think that's important for all of you to kind of embed in your thoughts, and I would write it down. Whatever you're doing, the brain needs to be involved. You're talking about engagement of your reader, your market, all of that. It's engaging them as you go forward. So.
Yes, and I want to say one thing about contemporary styles. In the design world right now, it's people are like, well, you have to stay with contemporary style. I question that styles do change. But what I did see as a designer a few years ago was all the logos were a letter inside a circle. It was a variation on that theme. Everybody had a letter in the circle. Do you think that you're going to remember that? You know, if it's, I don't know, if it's Amazon, okay, if they put an A in the circle, you might remember it because it's Amazon, how they did it, because everybody shops on Amazon. But, you know, just you're starting out and you've got like a B inside the circle. Why is somebody going to remember your B as opposed to 50 trillion other B's and Q's and R's and S's inside a circle? So do not think that because everybody's doing it or it's the current style that that's a good thing. You want it to be timeless. You want it to be memorable. And do you guys know the Columbia Pictures? You know, they still have that statue with holding a little...
I know.
They still use it. This is like, you do not change your brand. You do not change your logo. You do not change your image. They change it. They've lost their market.
Yes,
they'll rebuild it. But yeah.
On the Columbia movie, on the Babe, the Babe holding up at the torch,
the sparkler.
Yeah. She has changed her clothing a little bit. She has got a little bit more contemporary, but still the same. And then you notice that, oh, well, you know, she's a little bit more modern. She no longer looks like Betty Boop or whatever.
Right. The NBC Peacock has upgraded, but it's basically the Peacock. You still see it. Mm-hmm. It was NBC. Is that who has the Peacock?
Yes, that is the Peacock.
Yeah.
But you also and they always spread it out. That was where the Peacock, the fan, and then you had the NBC and the colors came in. But now then you can see the fan because you're used to seeing it. You know what it is. You immediately know, even without Mr. Peacock head on it. You see it because it's already embedded in the brain. If that makes any sense at all, everybody. All right.
That's how branding works.
That is how branding works. All right. So we're going to take our final break, and then we are going to be coming back with Peggy Sands. And let's talk about, can we talk about the process, Peggy, of how you work when you're going back developing? And then what kind of cost factors should people know about in developing these brands? We're going to be right back. It's AuthorU, your guide to book publishing. I'm Judith Briles.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Are you confused about publishing options? Do you know which printing option is best for your book? Does your stomach flip when you think about selling books? Or do you feel overwhelmed with what to do about book marketing and publicity? Get the answers and much more. Get them and from someone who knows publishing inside and out from both the traditional and independent sides, how to make a successful book. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand and platform, and is a success, a bestseller. It is your choice. You choose. If you want author and publishing success, you want Judith Briles as your book coach. Sign up for her weekly blogs and e-zine at thebookshepherd.com. The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and guide to collaborate with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You do not need more problems. You want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and chaos. At times, she has had to step in and rescue a book. A book that has been sabotaged by a publisher, by a publishing service provider, and sometimes even by the author. If you want author and book success, connect with her today at thebookshepherd.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
You have got it implanted into your brain that it needs simple is always going to be a driver for a keeper, and that allows it to be memorable versus complicated, wholly intricate things. Don't make it hard for someone to fall in love with you. I think that's important. And it's also, I think, what Peggy Sands says, my guess is it's important for you to really care for, to love your logo going forward with that. All right, so Peggy, let's jump on board, go in a couple of things that, how much do you want, when you're working with someone, how much do you want them to bring their opinions forward versus maybe kind of let you be imaginative? Is that ever an issue?
It hasn't really been for me because I pick my clients' brains to begin with, so I know what they want. Mm-hmm. And then the way my brain works, it's like a visual processing machine. Imagine a pasta machine. We put all this stuff in and images come out. Do not even ask me where they come from because I don't know. Mm-hmm. I sit down with a pencil and a sketchbook and I start just basically, it's a visual brainstorming. What about this? Oh, I could do that. Oh, what about this? And I always go back to my clients because I really do not believe it's a good idea to have a logo that you don't like.
Oh, I hope
we go back
not.
and forth.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just that you've wasted your money if you get a logo that you don't like. And if you put up with it because your designer says that's what I've done. And frankly, I don't, that's the way people work. Time is money. I don't work that way. But I'm kind of rare that way. Mm-hmm. Can I say one thing first?
Sure.
Let me just say one thing. I want people to understand your brand consists of the visual of a representation of you or your product. It is potentially a mark or a logo. A mark is the little image. You might have a word mark, which is just letters like Coca-Cola. So there's the mark. There is a typeface that is going to be, if you have just the little symbol, you're going to have a typeface probably that is your typeface. It consists of colors and it consists of spacing. So this is something people don't realize and is very important. How much space is between the letters? Mm-hmm. Are your letters thick or thin? If your letters are thin and there's a lot of space between them, that immediately says refined and elegant. And this is how we manipulate the world. Okay, go on. Seriously, this is how we manipulate the world. So, yes, what is your question now, Judith? I just wanted to put that out, that people understand the colors, the symbol, yes or no, the typeface when you're doing your visual branding. Mm-hmm. The spacing between.
Do you recommend that people go out and look at other brands of they go brand shopping to see if anything pops to that they can bring to the party, saying, gee, I really love the feel of this? Okay.
That's one of my questions on my design refinement questionnaire. Mm-hmm. Show me examples of what you like, because there's people like really different things.
Mm-hmm. But again, though, it may be something that you like, but what if it's not a fit for your audience? What if it's not something that has that, the fingers are reaching out to bring them in? How do you tell?
Well, that's when I say, you can't use Comic Sans font. I'm sorry. It's an executive decision by your designer. I can explain why, but no, you got to be able to. You have to find a designer you can work with, who you like, who's you can go back and forth a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And when somebody brings me a design and they've chosen a kid's play school logo and they want to market their clothing, I'm like, what do you like about this? Because this is not going to speak to adult women, but what is it that you like?
Mm-hmm.
And then I can incorporate those elements into what I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
the abstract elements.
Right. And that actually opens up the door in a relationship that a client would have with you, because you listen to them and you're able to pull some elements, not necessarily all of them, into what you're creating. So there feels like there's a sense of ownership and connection, I think, with the design as it evolves.
So
how long
important.
How long does it take?
Let's see. A logo can take, it depends. It just depends. What I usually do is I research. I research what's going on in the design world in that field. I research what that person, about their company a little bit, and try and get a feel for what they want to sell. And then I sit down, I take all the information, and as I said before, it all goes into the pasta machine of my brain, and I start drawing in my sketchbook. I just start sketching. And it's amazing to me because if you ask me, I can't tell you, but if I'm sketching, all these ideas come out. I don't know why. It's the pasta machine of my brain. I don't understand it. I wish I could market, reproduce it, and sell it. I could make a lot of money. That's how I'm wired.
Yeah. So, Peggy, you talk about you do things by hand, by sketchbook.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing you say, I open up my computer program and I start etching. Or
I open up my sketchbook. No,
yeah,
I do it by hand.
I heard you. Say that. But I'm saying that I see a lot of elements that it seems like they're just all computer generated.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes. Well, if I do if you look at my logos, a lot of them are obviously hand painted. There's I call it the Zenline logos. They're simple, but they're obviously a brush stroke. It's a brush stroke. Then, I scan that in. I do my stuff. I scan it in. I make it a vector file. Because, one other thing about logos, people, you do not want a JPEG for your logo because you want a vector file. That means at the end it's .eps or .ai. The reason for that is a JPEG, a PDF, all these things are basically visual photographs. When you blow up a photograph, you're going to see the little bit mapping or you're going to see the dot screen. Same with your logo. Vector file is a file based on equations. Every point has an X and Y. It's plotted on an X and Y axis. So you can blow it up and put it on the size of the moon, and it's going to look good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so sorry. When I do, yes, so everything, it's got to be a computer image, but I originally do stuff by hand. Yeah. To get back to how long do things take?
I have a question. Wait a minute. I have a question on a vector file. Can the average person open up a vector file?
Probably not. So you get what I give my clients is
Yeah. So they need they need both. They need to have a vector file that they can use when they're doing reprinting or anything like that. But you need a JPEG also, because that's what you can throw on simple things, or like on a handout, slam it in.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying. And when I do logos, I do 3 sizes of JPEGs and 3 or 4 of JPEGs and PDFs, so people can have a nice assortment to play with. By the way, your logo should work in black and white as well as in color. Very important.
Oh, great
suggestion. Because when you're sandblasting your logo into the side of the building, in the glass doors, you can't add color if you're going that far. You never know.
Oh, Okay, glass etching, here we come.
Well, or on the baseball cap or whatever,
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
you want to be able to
All right,
print it in one color.
that's the truth. All right, Peggy, we've got 2 minutes left. What other tidbit would you like to add?
I think I said everything. You asked about how long they take me.
Yes. How long does it take? And what's the cost? What's the cost range? Can you help me out there?
Yeah, I go from, if it's, I work with my clients. If it's something really simple, somebody wants a word mark or whatever, 100, 150, just to set it all up for them.
Mm-hmm.
But to usually probably 1,200 is my most expensive, which are the very complex. There's one for Body Mind Fitness, and it was a complex logo with she wanted very specific things, and that was 1,200, I think.
It took a lot of time.
600-800. Yeah, it took a lot of time. They take a few weeks.
Yeah, a lot of people say, "Oh, everyone just go to Fiverr, do that." I so discourage that. This is a logo to me is something that's your brand, and it's something you're not going to use for a month. This is something that's going to be sticking with you for years and years and years. So, I'm all for making sure you have a professional involved and you do it right. But that's my 2 bits.
Agreed. It's very important. But you know what? Everybody's got a budget. I mean, that's why, like, I have a friend, he's on a budget. He's like, you just our logo. We're doing a music video. I'm like, yeah, okay. So, can we pay you $300? I'm like, yeah, okay. And I did it. And then, but here's the thing. That wave, I did a wave inside. We did it inside a circle. It took 5 minutes to paint that wave. Everybody's favorite logo that I ever did is the guitar. If you get to my website, and that was a 15-minute logo for my boyfriend. Other logos, the Red Rocks logos, took 3 weeks for Red Rock Law or whatever is. I can't remember her name, but so you just never know. Mm-hmm. Gorilla took 3 weeks. Took forever. Oh my God, it's a good logo. But you just don't know. I usually say, logo. Okay, we're going to cap it. Sorry, what was that?
Okay, it is a good logo. All right, with me has been Peggy Sands. I hope you got some good information here on branding, logos, why you should you have a logo? The answer is yes, 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 yes. And get it, work it through that it's memorable and simple. And with that, Peggy, thank you for being with us today.
You're so welcome. Thank you, Judith.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, everyone. We'll see you next week on AuthorU, your guide to book publishing.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles.